and welcome back to my YouTube channel inside Saint Petersburg, Russia. In today's video, I'm going to introduce you to an IT manager from France, a man who has been living in the city of St. Petersburg for the past 2 years. His name is Thomas, and I'm going to ask him a few questions about his life in Russia, northern capital. Enjoy!
Hi everyone, my name is Thomas. So in French is Thomas because I'm French and I'm from Paris. I'm a IT project manager in the city. I've been living here for over 4 years now, and yeah, I'm a free single.
Next question.
Okay, go ahead. I moved to Russia for the job. So I got, basically a job opportunity, and I decided to take it. The job is like I'm basically an IT project manager, and I do software development projects for a different company. The most difficult was probably waiting for the visa, but I got very lucky because my company took care of everything. So the only thing I had to do, yes, of course, I had to provide different documents, translate some of them from French to Russian, get it notified basically. But yeah, I got very lucky because my company took care of everything. It just took like half a year. It reminds me a lot of Europe, actually. Like if you walk around at least the city center, right, you can see that the style and the architecture is like pretty much a lot like Paris or Madrid. To be honest, that was my first impression. Like, well, they said that it's the most European city in Russia. So that was completely my first impression of St. Petersburg. It's also pretty spacious. I felt like you have a lot of space compared to other countries I've lived in. Like you can walk everywhere. There's a lot of parks. I mean, it's pretty nice actually. It's actually pretty affordable. But I guess if for maybe for the local people it's more normal, but it's just because I used to live in in very expensive capital, think London, think Dublin, so they were like pretty expensive city. For me, yeah, like St. Petersburg for me is pretty much affordable. Yeah, actually, the very first city I visited before I even moved to Russia was Sochi. I was actually volunteering at the Winter Olympics in 2014. Then when I moved into Russia, I've been to Moscow several times. I got the chance to go to smaller city for work, but it was like just 2 weeks, 1 month. Yeah, just to name a few: Izhevsk, Samara. Then like travel, if you talk about travel, I've been to Krasnodar, to Kazan, a couple of cities actually in Siberia, so Novosibirsk, and I've been even to Tomsk for a few days. I like the people actually. I know that you have some kind of stereotype about the fact that the Russian are a bit cold. At least from my experience in 4 years, I find it very friendly. At least they've been very friendly to me. I like the fact that it's actually it's a big city, but it's still very relaxing and very peaceful. And if you live in the center, downtown, you can really feel the history of the city everywhere you go. That's what I like about the city. There's only one thing that you really need to get used to is like for half a year you're not gonna see much sun, so it get dark, especially when you work, right? Like, you know, during the you get some sun when you are like working, and then when you're out of work, like it's already dark, and it's like pretty much half of the year. And then the other way around is like when you get into spring and summer, then it's like daylight. Like, you know about the white nights, yeah, basically, where it's like almost never dark, yeah, or like you have some kind of sunshine all the time. So it's a bit of like extreme. That's probably the only thing I would say about that. The only thing that is, I wouldn't even say I dislike it, but that's the thing that you need to get used to. When I think about Russia, I actually think about diversity, and people think that, you know, it's like a one type of people, one type of ethnicity, but actually it's one of the most diverse country you've ever, like, in the world, right? So you think about it, it's a massive city. It goes from Europe to, you know, close to Japan and South Korea, and they are, I don't know the exact numbers, but, you know, there's so many culture and so many, you know, ethnicity, and they all live together. I'm not saying it's always peaceful, but it's so diverse. Everyone here is a mix. To be honest, it's probably the second safest city I've ever lived in, Tokyo being the first. I think Russian people are very honest and very straightforward. That is very good. They don't waste time in like idle or small talks. And at the beginning, they have their guard up, but, you know, when they get to know you, they are the sweetest people in the world. That's what I would say. Yes, I experienced a few people, you know, words like saying, you know, imitating the Chinese accent, or something I get sometimes is like, you know, Jackie Chan or something like this, but I just ignore it. But to be fair, it's not specific to Russia, right? I got that often in other countries as well, but I mean, they are just words. Is it nice? No, but I just brush it off, you know. It's not like they get physical, right? There's no violence. They will just laugh or make fun of you, but, you know, to be honest, it doesn't impact me. It doesn't affect me that much, you know. In Russia, it's just words, and most of the time I just pretend I don't understand. In my case, I actually, the job found me, so to speak, and then I moved, right? It was not planned. I was not looking for a job in Russia. It's just life happened. But I do know many, you know, many foreigners who are trying to find a job here, and they find it difficult. You know, you need to speak the language for most job, I would say. Okay, to be fair, most of the time you need to accept like a salary cut, probably. But in my field, I'm an IT guy, so I don't, you know, IT is IT everywhere. I don't need to speak the local language. It's not only Russia, right? In any country, I would say not all country, but it's easier because I'm in IT. But if you are not in IT, or I don't know, maybe I can think of another field, but usually most of the time they expect you to speak the local language and like fluently, right? So how do you compete with Russian? Very easy, actually. I met my my best friend in Saint Petersburg the second day I moved here. It was just random. I moved here. I was still in a hotel, right, when I moved here, and they were just like an event on Facebook promoting French Russian social event, and it was just 2 blocks away from my hotel. And I went there, and the very first person I met, she was the organizer of the event, and today she's my very best friend. And if you're not shy and you go talk to people, they will be interested in you because you are foreigners, and it's a bit how to say, it's actually easier because then you can tell you about your experience abroad and stuff, and they are actually usually most of the time they are fascinated. So I don't know if you can call it a cultural difference, right? But the first thing that come into my mind and that I actually really like in Russia is like you can be a bit more honest. You can be a bit more straightforward. I'm not saying that it's not gonna be completely rules, but they take it better, right? In Europe, in the US, you need to be politically correct. You need to be diplomatic, and it's actually refreshing to be able to be completely honest and be straightforward. And I think that's the only thing that the main thing that comes into my mind if you think about cultural differences. I find it very nice, to be honest. It's a pretty good place in my opinion. Now, you know, I'm a foreigner, right? I'm not Russian, but if you think about, like, you know, I've met 2 kind of people, right? It's either the one who really want to live, like really want to live, or the one who really you know, love Russia and they want to stay here. From my experience, no country is perfect. You always have something that is good and bad, and I think most people don't realize that, you know, the West has their own issue as well. Depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for something different, then I would say recommend to move. Now, if you're looking for, you know, be successful in business, if you're looking for like career and opportunities, yeah, there are probably other countries that will provide you more opportunities. But yeah, I recommend for the fun. I recommend for the for something different. I recommend for the people. I recommend for actually the lifestyle. But for career-wise, there are probably other places. From my experience with meeting you know, different foreigners in Russia, I would say get your Russian down. Like, you need to know Russian, certify in Russian or something like this, right? And the second thing is, like, you probably have to compromise a little bit on your compensation, especially if you're coming from the West, so to speak. My family and my friends, the very obvious one. Then the second one I would say is, you know, I'm French, I'm from Paris, right? What do you think? I miss the food. I miss the food. I really miss the food. So I speak survival Russian. I can go to the bank, I can go to the supermarket, I can go to the post office, I can order food, right? But I don't need Russian to work, so it's less of a motivation, so to speak. Just polite Russian and survival Russian.
Thank you for watching. I really hope you have enjoyed this new video. If you like it, please make sure you click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell if you don't want to miss my next videos. Until next time, I wish you a wonderful day. Ciao!
Don't forget to subscribe to the channels inside Saint Petersburg, Russia.